You know, the author suggested this somehow saves money, and he elaborated a number of numbers that make no sense to me whatsoever. If you were to advance this, you would want to save money, but what he is proposing is to waste a whole lot of money. On page 132 of this state budget, it says that a contracted out capital outlay support position at the department is annually, on average, $233,400 per position. The same position to hire a fully loaded state engineer is $116,000 per year. That is a state staff position. That is his salary. That is his benefit. That is his health care. That is his truck, and that is his office. So every position he is advocating to eliminate and outsource would cost $100,000 more that the department doesn't have and shouldn't be wasted on outsource positions that should go, money should go into construction. He also used a figure that I hadn't ever heard before. It would be a great surprise to the department and to PEG members at the department. There is no state engineer in the state making $138,000 a year, much less $169,000 a year. I think that's roughly what the director makes, unfortunately, and he probably deserves more. So no, that is not what a state engineer makes. It probably tops out at top engineers at about $110,000 a year.
In fact, one major problem, yet another indicator that reform is needed at CalTrans, is that neither CalTrans nor the public employee unions that serve CalTrans have been able to produce consistent data on their staffing and costs. According to the 2011 State Auditor Report, CalTrans has done little analysis to determine the frequency or magnitude of support cost budget overruns. Further, although opportunities exist to inform stakeholders to the extent of these overruns, CalTrans has not done so, limiting valuable information on the efficiency and effectiveness of the support program, close quote. The average salary of a CalTrans engineer ranges, according to CalTrans, is between $138,664 to $168,475 in 2007. But the head of the Professional Engineers in California Government Labor Union stated in a letter to my office that the average cost of a CalTrans engineer is $124,000. However, the head of the union claimed in a letter to the Orange County Register this week that the actual cost is $116,000. In 2011, the Senate Budget Committee estimated that the Capital Outlay Support Program engineering staff cost $158,000.
In terms of the different numbers that have been provided, it was mentioned that there's certain estimates of the cost of state staff or of contractors that are provided in the budget. In terms of trying to answer the request, we looked at those and we found that those numbers were not really supported by actual data. And so what we actually did was looked at the actual costs for consultants based on a sampling of actual consultant invoices over a broad range of work. And we had to do this because, again, the sort of the overarching numbers that CalTrans uses were not supported by data, and they actually don't have a data system to track what their costs are. And so, yes, and so in doing that, we compared the full cost of the consultants that we sampled to the fully loaded cost of state staff, which would include the salary, overtime, sick leave, vacation, healthcare, retirement benefits, overhead, and equipment. And in doing that, we found that the costs were roughly the same at about $140 an hour. And so comparing, a state staff to a consultant on an individual staff basis, the costs were about the same.
And then this overstaffed argument that keeps being made, perpetuated by the LAO 2 years ago, who was frustrated with the department and somehow drew a conclusion that project delivery is directly correlated to how much money you have in construction. And it just doesn't work that way. This department has been using zero-based budgeting for a decade. Every year it right-sizes its capital outlay support staffing. I will report that this is the 8th budget in a row that they cut capital outlay support staffing. They are down 3,500 positions from the height over 8 years ago. They are at their lowest capital outlay support staffing in 20 years. So to continue to suggest that there are a bunch of people there that the department is overstaffed just does not represent the reality. and it has been refuted publicly and in writing by the agency secretary, the department director, and the Department of Finance many times, including most recently at the special session hearing you had earlier in this special session.
Can you kind of wrap it up, please?
So we would strongly encourage a no vote. There is no public policy justification for this proposal. If it is that ideologically some folks support outsourcing over others. It doesn't save money, it doesn't speed project delivery, and there is not overstaffing at the department. I would encourage all of us to get back to addressing what is truly the need, which is maintaining and financing funding to repair and to keep our state highways and other infrastructure facilities in working order for our economy. Thank you very much.
I believe what was testified to at that time is that since 2007-8, roughly 3,400 COS positions have been eliminated. Those numbers are based on budgeted levels, which included some over budgeting or inflated budgeting in the program. What we did in our analysis and in the program review, which I just want to clarify too, was part of the administration's zero-based budgeting that we did together collaboratively with them. What we used were the actual numbers of how many state staff were actually hired, so getting away from the vacant positions, because those positions were never filled to actually do work. And when looking at the actual numbers, and this is coming from the governor's budget, these are not our estimates, these are the administration's numbers, it was 1,880 full-time equivalents that have been reduced since 2007-8. We accounted for those reductions in the program review, and tried to, average it out and smooth it out as much as we can. There was a significant increase in workload due to the federal stimulus funds and the Prop 1B funds, and so we tried to account for all of those factors. Our estimate then was the 3,500 positions overstaffing. It's a rough estimate. Ideally, you'd have that detailed zero-based budgeting look, but because the data is so poor or inflated that the department's using in their zero-based budgeting effort, we felt that that was not appropriate to use. And so we did account for that in our staffing numbers, and the actual numbers based on the administration is the 1,880 in terms of reductions. I would note that since our analysis, the administration reduced another 178 positions, as was noted by Mr. Toppin earlier, so that would bring down the number that we would estimate in terms of the overstaffing level.
So that's not a lot from the 3,500. You said they were overstaffed. Are you standing by that number minus the 178?
Correct, yes. The only thing that has changed in that time is the reduction of the 178. So it's probably in the neighborhood of roughly 3,300 at this point in time. We would caution it, so it is a rough number, but that was our best estimate based on the best data that we had confidence in.